Good evening. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday, May 14th. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. The news that the state police has been tapping phones was recently spread by the media. Several days ago, the President of the Republic asked for a verification of this information. Meanwhile, several days ago, the Minister of Interior held a meeting with mobile phone companies. He spoke about drafting a bill which would make phone tapping by the state police legal, something which, according to the Albanian laws, is an exclusive right of the State Informative Service. The Minister of the Interior publicly denied that he was exceeding his competencies, but the prosecution launched an official investigation over the issue and requested the tapping equipment from the state police. However, the state police responded that an Italian training company has the equipment. We are waiting for an official reaction to several issues which need attention, such as what happened that there was a need to have taped conversations, whose phone was tapped, and who has the recorded material. Should the state police take a legal competency test to tap for investigative purposes? In 2011, the Socialist Party was strongly against tapping equipment used by anyone other than the State Informative Service, including the Ministry of Defense. During his visit to Washington, the Assembly Speaker, Mr. Ilir Meta, held a meeting with the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alan Bersin. Mr. Bersin and Mr. Meta discussed the cooperation of security between Albania and the United States. Meta noted that after the justice reform approval, it is necessary that the U.S. intensifies its assistance for a successful implementation of the reform. The Assembly Speaker acknowledged that Albania and the United States must increase their security cooperation, taking the recent migrant crisis in Europe into account. He noted that the U.S. has extensive experience in the field of security, and cooperation will facilitate a more strategically strengthened and rigorous border control. Keeping in consideration, he said, the impact of the last migration crisis in Europe and the wide experience of the USA in the security field, our countries should increase cooperation for a better control of the borders and for reinforcing the strategic infrastructure in ports and airports. The Assistant Secretary of Homeland Security, Alan Bersin, also praised the increase of cooperation in the field of security. The discussion started talking about how we can cooperate to ensure border security, maritime security, and air security, and how both countries can benefit from this cooperation. I am very honored to meet with the Assembly Speaker, and we will continue the cooperation between the Department of Homeland Security and the national security institutions of Albania in the future. During his stay in the U.S., the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Meta, held meetings at the U.S. State Department with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, Hoyt Brian Yee, and the senior officials in the National Security Council. They talked about the security situation in the region and the progression of the reforms, focusing on the adoption of the constitutional package. National studies show that 7 out of 10 children experience some form of violence in their family or schools. Recent data of the World Vision Organization highlighted that 80% of those minors who are victims of violence and abuses do not know where to report the experience. The Ministry of Social Welfare has prepared a strategy for the defense of vulnerable groups, which will offer social services. Organizations for the protection of children and institutions of social care informed the citizens about the strategy for protection of families. Present in an activity for International Families Day, the Minister of Social Welfare announced that the ministry will identify violence cases and social services will operate in every administrative unit. Meanwhile, the Mayor of Tirana, Erion Velier, spoke about the City Hall project to help vulnerable groups. As the International LGBTI Community Day is coming, representatives from the community supported by the Ombudsman and diplomatic corps accredited in Tirana organized a march against homophobia. Representatives from the LGBTI community highlighted that they feel discredited and appealed to the institutions for more rights. As citizens, we are ashamed that there is no one from the government or any politicians here today. We are only friends and part of the international community, said one of the representatives. The Ombudsman, the U.S. Ambassador Donald Liu, and the Ambassador of the Netherlands praised the courage of this community. I have great respect for those who fight for the LGBTI rights, declared the U.S. Ambassador. The Ombudsman called the politicians to respect the rights of this community. He asked the politicians to give the LGBTI community the rights they deserve. Participants cycled through the main boulevard up to the center of Tirana as a message against discrimination. Prime Minister Edi Rama has proposed some legal changes in order to boost scientific research in Albania. During a meeting with the academics and leaders of several universities, the Prime Minister declared that these legal changes will help find new financial resources to enrich the academics' work. The Prime Minister praised the importance of consultations for the reform in scientific research. There is a need to review the vision and mission of the Academy of Research. An analysis of the Academy's functioning showed that it has an insufficient performance, said the Prime Minister, adding that 3 work groups will soon be set up to deal with the strategic scientific research. Democratic Party Chairman Lulzim Basha was in Kukës today, where he presented the Democratic Party's governing platform. Kukës has one of the highest unemployment rates and is one of the most affected cities by immigration. Small business owners expressed their concerns for a deteriorating economic condition and increased taxes. The Democratic Party chairman emphasized that he will make investments in the infrastructure, which he claims will open new jobs. Mr. Basha also promised subventions in industry. Investments in infrastructure that open new jobs and subvention in industry are the roads that lead to a solution, he said. We will reduce taxes. Tax on businesses will be 9%. Tax on personal incomes up to 350,000 lek will be 0. All this will revive the Albanian economy, emphasized the opposition leader. The DP chairman also met with some farmers of the area who met Mr. Basha with their concerns. The farmers complained about the potatoes that are smuggled from Kosovo, which are damaging the domestic production. The DP chairman presented the platform for the agricultural culture, which according to him involves 100 million euro direct subventions for the farmers and 50 million euro of investments in the agricultural infrastructure. On May 27th, Tirana will host the Parliamentary Assembly of NATO. In a press release, the Socialist MP Maiko said that political issues of security and coping with the challenges of the alliance will be discussed during the 3-day assembly. The Parliamentary Assembly of NATO contributes to the key issues relating to the security of the Euro-Atlantic area and provides a more efficient control of national institutions dealing with protection. Although the Parliamentary Assembly is institutionally separated from the executive NATO structures, it constitutes the essential link between it and the national parliaments of the alliance. It provides greater political transparency of the North Atlantic Organization and allows lawmakers of the coalition and the citizens to better understand the tasks and objectives of the latter. Albania is a NATO member, has the honor to host the Parliamentary Assembly. Some decades ago, our country, Albania, was part of the Warsaw Pact and later one of the most isolated countries in Europe. Having the NATO Parliamentary Assembly in Tirana is proof of Albania's positive change in the international status. During the 3 days of proceedings, we will discuss coping with the difficult challenges that our alliance has in the near and distant futures, declared the Socialist MP. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.